barely lift his arm, and he couldn't lunge properly. So they had to take the whole thing apart and put inserts in all over it, and he found it quite restrictive. It does change the way you move, definitely, but it's not uncomfortable. And yes, it is hot, but it's not uncomfortably hot to wear. It was a really, really hot summer that year. If you're playing lower class characters, it can be less restrictive. It's more comfortable in some ways, but it's rough wool, so that has its own disadvantages, really. But yeah, it's fun to wear.
Is it a different form of acting on a stage like this? Are you conscious that you're on Shakespeare's stage?
What you're conscious of is the audience more than anything else. I mean, I think it's difficult for me to know for certain because I've seen this building go from the ground upwards, so I've just kind of lived with it for so long. But I think there are lots of actors who do walk on the stage for the first time, and it does hit you that suddenly, yes, you are in this space that has a direct link to the original time. But more than anything, what you experience is the audience, and that's an unusual thing, because you just never know what they're going to do. And if you're the kind of actor that wants to do the same performance every single day, which is a perfectly valid way of working, this is a terrifying space. And I know some actors have spent one season here and said, I'm never going there again.
Do you find it's a bit naive in some respect, with the weather changing and playing out? Does it affect the performance?
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely. Yeah. Weather is another wild card, and it does have a direct effect on the response of the audience. Because you might be doing something like Romeo and Juliet, where they're talking about how amazingly hot it is, and everyone's out here shivering in the pouring rain. Or you might be doing The Winter's Tale dressed from head to foot in fur, and everyone's out here in shorts and t-shirts fanning themselves and fainting. So the audience respond in that respect. We've had some very strange godly stage management in the past. During King Lear, the first time we did it here in 2001, on at least 6 occasions that I can think of, there was a proper thunderstorm happening during King Lear's thunderstorm. And on the very moment it demanded there to be a thunderclap, there was one. And the whole audience went, It was just brilliant. This happens quite a bit. Some of the actors do use it to their own advantage. Jimmy, who was playing Caliban in The Tempest last year or the year before, he was playing Caliban, and quite regularly he refers to the noises on the island, and invariably it was as one of those was going over, and he was able to go, I don't like it. So, yeah. And then the other wild card we've got is wildlife. We do sometimes get birds flying around the building, and very bizarrely there have been occasions when pigeons have gone onto the stage during the play and have obviously quite enjoyed it. In The Merchant of Venice there's a pigeon who followed Shylock wherever he went during the court scene. During Hamlet, the trapdoor in the middle there was being used as Yorick's grave, and Hamlet was in there digging out Yorick's bones, and a pigeon fell into the pit with him. And instead of coming out with Yorick's skull, that famous image of Hamlet, he came out with a pigeon in his hand and then said, alas, poor Yorick, I knew him, Horatio, and then it flew away. So, yeah, there's lots of weird stuff that happens here. But I suppose that happens in any open-air theatre.
Is the sound forgiving here if you're an actor?
Yeah, it's the acoustics. They're varied, and it changes depending on the weather, the atmospheric pressure, the cloud cover. And there are some actors here for whom the building works extremely well, and there are other actors who work very, very hard and it still doesn't quite work for them. And I don't think anyone really understands why. People like Mark Rylance, he can talk at an absolutely silent level and still be heard completely throughout the building. Other people practically have to shout and you still quite have trouble hearing them. And it's just a case of working, but more than anything, thinking where your voice has to go. And it's not about the way you speak beyond clarity. We've done lots of experiments with different accents in here. I suppose for the last 100 years there's been a tendency to speak Shakespeare in a certain way, the sort of the BBC English, if you like. And nobody in England sounded anything like that when Shakespeare wrote his plays. So there is a trend at the moment to try and encourage people not to sound as though they've been to RADA, but to use whatever local accent they've got. And we did experiment with Elizabethan pronunciation for a number of our productions, which was also very interesting, but I don't think we'll do it again. Let's go this way.